Let's promote Alderwoman Taylor too, please. And Caroline. We'll just wait another couple minutes for everyone to join. Thank you for your patience and thanks for joining us tonight.
Okay.
Y muy buenas tardes a todos. Vamos a empezar en unos minutos. Gracias.
Should we go ahead and get started, Nolan? You're muted.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you want to promote me to co-host so I can get folks
Oh, I'm so sorry. Of course I do.
promoted while you're running the show.
Let's see. Oh, you're already. Oh, here you are. There we go. Okay,
Thank you.
of course.
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sonia. I'm with the Department of Planning and Development, for those who haven't met me. Welcome to the Neighborhood Roundtable. We have a pretty packed agenda tonight. But first, we'd like to start off by introducing our translator, Elisa Rangel. Elisa, if you'd like to introduce yourself and explain the directions for live interpretation in Spanish. I can't hear Elisa, but I assume we're good to go. Elisa. Okay, so this evening we will be kicking off with some time dedicated to the reflecting on the roundtable survey, followed by a quick update on the CDOT corridor improvements. Then we'll have a presentation on the Chicago Recovery Plan Community Development Grant by Jim Harbin, followed by an overview of We Will Chicago, our citywide plan by Gabby Jurassic. And lastly, we'll be, not lastly, excuse me, then we'll be joined by CPL to discuss the results of the Back of the Yards Library Community Survey. And lastly, we'll get an update from United Yards and Back of the Yards Works on their joint project in Back of the Yards. So quick ground rules, please stay muted while others are speaking. Please raise your hand to speak. Feel free to use the chat and Q&A features. This meeting will be recorded and posted on our website. Caroline, are you with us this evening? There you are.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. I'll be very quick. It's good to be with you. I was here on the roundtable last month discussing this survey, and I wanted to do another plug. We've had 5 responses from back of the yards, and so I would love to see a few more come through. The survey remains open for another few weeks. And really this survey is the first step in some engagements that we'll do more of. We'll do more kind of live and face-to-face conversations about how the roundtables are going. And so this survey is really just a chance to share what's going well, what's not going well, and some of your ideas for how to make the roundtables better. And so again, it's just a first step, but we're really looking for folks to give us feedback that we can build our next steps off of. So please, if you have not already filled out this Reflecting on Roundtable survey, do so. The links are on the screen. I'll put them in the chat as soon as I'm done speaking, and Nolan and Sonia will also send them out after the call. We have the same survey in both English and Spanish, so please use whatever you're most comfortable with. And I'll stick around for a couple of minutes if there are any questions.
Thank you, Caroline. Does anyone have questions at the moment? Okay, moving forward then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nolan.
Oh, I'm on. Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to give folks an update on CDOT wasn't able to join us tonight, but as you know, they're continuing to work through the process of developing a plan for streetscape improvements along 47th Street and Ashland Avenue in back of the yards. And so they will be convening their second community meeting. It looks like it will be this coming February 3rd at 6:00 p.m. And so we don't expect you to take down any of the information here. It's just a heads up that they will be having that second community meeting on February 3rd. You are all welcome to join. We also would invite you to please get the word out. Let your neighbors know, let your friends know, to come and join and engage in that process, to continue to plan for public realm improvements in back of the yards. As with the survey email or the survey links that Caroline mentioned in the previous item, we'll be sure to send this information out to you after this meeting so that you have it. And again, please feel free to share it widely with folks. We want to get as many voices to the table as possible.
Thanks, Nolan. Okay, so on to the Chicago Recovery Plan Community Development Grant Program. Let's see. Jim, are you on the call? I don't see Jim on at the moment, Nolan.
It looks like he may be having some technical difficulties. Let's go to the next item and we can come back to him.
Thank you. And Nolan, just FYI, he was made a panelist, so he probably has that panelist email as well.
Hang on. He might actually be on. Hold on a second.
Okay. Let's see.
Bear with us, folks.
Let's see. Here we are.
Yes. Hold on. He is on. I'm going to promote him and he'll be able to.
Thank you.
Just give us a minute, folks. Jim, are you with us now?
I am.
Hey, there we go.
Sorry. Sorry about that, Jim. Thanks
Okay.
for joining.
Can you guys see me now?
Sure can.
Okay. Yeah, I was having fun with technology. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right in. First of all, good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Hardman. I'm a deputy commissioner here with the Department of Planning and Development, and I'm very happy to share with you some very good news about a new program that we just launched a couple of weeks ago called the Chicago Recovery Development Grant Program. It's a program that is literally resources coming from the federal government to the tune of almost $1.2 billion. And sometimes that has to be repeated. $1.2 billion is coming down the pike and allowing the city of Chicago, and more specifically, the Department of Planning and Development, to go ahead and provide resources, particularly for small businesses. Can you hit the next slide? So as you can see what just got hyped, no, go back, son, yeah, right there. So as you can see, these dollars are aimed at a number of resources, including arts and culture, tourism, parks, infrastructure, affordable housing, assistance to families, violence prevention, reduction, health and wellness, youth opportunities, and others. Our focus, our department's focus, is going to be on the top three, which is going to be community development, small business and workforce support, and community and climate investments. Okay, go to the next slide. So the intent of the program is to provide investments and support for catalytic local development. The grants and the aim of this particular grant is to strengthen local corridors, enhance neighborhood vitality, and drive equitable economic recovery. Next slide. And what you're going to find when you start looking at this grant up close and personal is that it mirrors many of our other programs. More specifically, it mirrors our Small Business Improvement Fund, and it also mirrors our Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, and that was intentional. What we wanted to do is not necessarily recreate the wheel, and given these resources are coming from another source than the sources the city historically has relied on, it gave us an opportunity to provide a little bit of innovation to these particular grants. But just to reiterate, the grants are used just like those other two programs I mentioned for expansion and renovation of existing businesses, new locations for startups or existing businesses. New construction is also eligible for these particular grants, particularly at vacant properties. The grants amount are different to some degree. Our small grant track mirrors our Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. So anything under $250,000 will be tiered into one particular track. Our large grant program is different. What usually was up to about $1.5 million, $2 million, our large grant program now under this Recovery Act can go up to $5 million. The other thing that is significantly different about our program is that this grant cannot be more than 75% of your total project costs. NOF has actually did some tweaking over the program over the last couple of years, and we can actually figure out a way to sometimes get to 100%. This grant is limited to 75% of your cost. Go ahead, Sonia. So the eligibility of this program really mirrors our existing programs. So as I alluded to before, the application is open to commercial, mixed use property. And I need to stop right there. So one of the things that is significantly different, usually with the Small Business Improvement Fund and the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, it was only limited to the commercial component of certain profiled assets. In this case, we are looking at mixed use. So that mixed use literally is described as those buildings that all of us have seen along the corridors where you have a commercial storefront on the bottom and residential on the top. This program can now tackle not only that commercial component, but it also can address the residential component as part of the overall project. And this program can do something that Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant program did not focus on, which is manufacturing projects. So this kind of combines a little bit of the Small Business Improvement Fund, combines a little bit of the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, and then stretches it to also include those mixed-use profiles. Business owners and entrepreneurs are eligible, property owners and community developers and community-based organization developers are eligible for this program. Applicants must all be, or I should say the projects must all be areas in Chicago. And the eligible expenses are, again, similar to our existing program. Major exterior and interior renovations, build outs for incoming businesses. Acquisition is also eligible with this program, site prep and demolition. What we've also added to this program is that your architectural and engineering fees can also be included. And that along with roofing, masonry, windows, doors, mechanical systems, security systems. This program is really robust. It's really trying to take the best of those two existing programs that I alluded to and make sure that we give it some teeth. Next slide. So the program has other interesting components to it. It used to be where NOF, and I should say used to be, it is still with NOF and with the Small Business Improvement Fund, it's limited to geography. In other words, the Small Business Improvement Fund, as many of you know, had to be in a TIF district in order for your project to be eligible. The Neighborhood Opportunity Fund had to be in what we call the qualified investment area in order to be eligible for this particular program. Well, in this case, this program is now Chicago-wide. So if you and your program and your project are in Chicagoland proper, your project could be eligible for this program. One of the things that we also added, as I alluded to, light manufacturing can also be included into this program. And one of the things that the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund used to insist on with this program is that if you were going to do a renovation, you need to do a renovation with a specific tenant in mind. In other words, you just couldn't build out a space and say, I'm going to wait till that business shows up. Well, in this case, we don't mind that. You can build out your space. You can build out that commercial space and get it ready to start showing to potential businesses who are looking for space in your community. Next slide. So the selection process, we think, is going to be in alignment in which we were looking at projects for the other two programs. We're looking for catalytic projects. That has not changed. We still want to pay attention to projects located in historically disinvested areas. That has not changed. We are looking for projects that also demonstrate momentum and are expected to ground break this year. That's slightly different. This year, we want to make sure with these resources that are coming down the pike that we are capturing you and your business that are literally ready to get your project going today, looking to get your project going this quarter, looking to get your project done and shoveled in the ground this year. We don't want to have projects, I shouldn't say it that way. I want to, what I'm alluding to is those projects that are ready to go, we are going to prioritize those particular projects. And then lastly, site control is preferred. And what we mean by that is that you as an applicant, when you give us that application, when you demonstrate that you have ownership, or you have that lease agreement signed, or you have that sales contract executed, those projects are going to get attention because you literally are signaling to the program that your project is ready to go. Next slide. So what does that application process look like? Well, there's a number of things that I want you guys to pay attention to. So first of all, there are deadlines to this particular program, but I want to make sure that this is clear. This is a rolling application. And what we're going to do in that first round on January 31st is literally start looking at the applications that have come in up to that point. We still are going to be accepting applications throughout the entire year, particularly when you look at February 1st, we're still looking at your application. It's just that that application will not start to be vetted until March 10th, which is our other demarcation. And subsequently, when you come in March 11th with an application, those projects are going to start being vetted and reviewed for some date in the summer where we cut off that evaluation. But I need to make sure that I'm clear here. We're looking for quality applications. It's not enough to rush a bad application into this process before January 31st. That is not the spirit in which this is designed. What it is designed to do is to make sure we as a department can manage the applications that come in and give ourselves time to do a true evaluation of each applicant. But it is not designed to rush you into putting together and providing and submitting a bad application. We are chasing good applicants, people who have done due diligence, people who have, as I alluded to before, are demonstrating that their projects are ready to go. One of the other things that needs to be noted is that the online application for both the small grants and the large grant has already started. I'm going to give you information later in this deck to make sure you know how to connect to that. We do have a demarcation of small grants and large grants. If your project request under $250,000, you will be submitting to the small grant portal. If your grants are looking for resources of over $250,000, you will be submitting to the large grant portal. Next slide. So the small grant portal, and this is something that this deck will be provided to you by Nolan and his team after this particular roundtable. But the important portal to note is the chicago.gov/Shy Recovery Grant. As a matter of fact, if you type into Google Shy Recovery Grant, you will land at our page. And part of what we will do is give you an opportunity to provide some early information in terms of determining how ready your project is. That project assessment will do two things. One, it will give you an opportunity to see how ready you are, so you won't necessarily go through the full-blown application if you haven't checked a couple of boxes. And then two, it actually helps us understand that you going through this process will allow us to make sure that your project is something in which should be eligible and should be considered for the program. You can actually start, once you get through that project assessment, you can actually start your application and save it. You don't have to finish it once you kind of start the process. And if you need time in order to get your documents together in order to complement what your application is suggesting, we prefer that you do that. And there will be a way to upload all your supplementary files and supplementary documents on that application portal. The other thing that needs to be noted is that a PDF of the application questions, since we actually did a webinar back on, I want to say January 16th, I'm guessing at that date, guys. But needless to say, there's a list of frequently asked questions that came from, we had over 1,500 people register for that webinar. I think the final tally in terms of who all was attending that particular webinar was a little over 700 folks. And those questions are all captured on one single document. And we believe that that document will serve to answer many of the questions that you might have today. Next slide. The large grant portal is also at chicago.gov/Shy Recovery Grant, and there will be a demarcation that allows you to either go for the small grant or for the large grant. The instructions we think are pretty clear, and there is a website, FID intake at cityofchicago.org, that you will be submitting that particular application to, and you are always free to reach out to your planning team or to myself in order to get any details in terms of submitting your application. Go ahead. Next slide, Sonia. So just a few tips before I start taking questions. One, project readiness. Successful applications must show sufficient planning to demonstrate feasibility and the applicant's readiness to begin as soon as possible. So we see that as a few things you need to be paying attention to. One is site control. Do you have a clear path in order to secure that particular project? So obviously we love to have for an applicant to have that site control buttoned up, but we understand in some cases there may be negotiations happening either with the lease or with the sales application. We just want to see proof in terms of where you are in that process, so we can actually determine how to triage where your application should be. A plan for construction. Do you know when and how soon you can get going with your project? In other words, how close are you to really understanding that you have greenlit this project? And I say that because many projects that are going to submit an application, we're already in the middle of a project, and we're going to get those, and we want to see those. This program is really aimed at those type of projects to make sure that they get that support to get over the finish line. But if not, if your project is still in a stage that is being developed, we want you to be paying attention to schedule and paying attention to, given you do get that green light, you know how soon you can start. Cost is always important. We want to know, have you, has the cost been vetted by contractors? Is this something that is an estimate on your end, a demonstration of estimates provided by general contractors? Will certainly help your argument in terms of what the cost will be. Never hurts to have more than one estimate. It not only informs what that cost could truly be, but it also helps to educate you and us in terms of what your project is targeting in terms of its success. And then the applicant equity. I've already alluded to the fact that the city is prepared to go up to 75% of your project. That means that there would need to be a demonstration of the other 25% in order to get to the finish line. And there are a variety of ways to do that. And we provide opportunities for you to submit complementing documents in order to support the equity that you will have in your project. Next slide. The next tip is community engagement. We have found that projects that have put consideration into the community in which is going to be launched or expanded plays a big role in terms of its success. Has the applicant reviewed and is aware of community plans for the area and a demonstration of that, an articulation of that in terms of how your particular project is going to support the goals of the neighborhood is something that the city is going to be considering as it evaluates these projects. The community engagement, has the applicant demonstrated engagement with the community through business or personal experience? And is that something that you can articulate within your application? We certainly are going to be looking for things like that. And then corridor conditions. Does the applicant show an awareness of existing services? We literally had one applicant, and I'm not picking on anyone, but we had one applicant who said in his application that he would be the only sandwich shop on the block, and a simple Google search by our staff saw that there were 3 others on the same block. And so you don't want to make that error. We want to make sure that applicants are paying attention to what's in the community and certainly what the community is asking for and what it needs. Next slide. And then lastly, design matters. We want to make sure that these projects reflect the city of Chicago, reflect that business owner, and more importantly, reflect that community. We want to make sure that there's going to be an opportunity for all residents to participate in this particular programming. We want to make sure that there are creative approaches to design and problem solving in terms of making sure that accessibility is functional. We certainly are looking for projects that celebrate and strengthen the culture of the communities in which they're going to reside. We really find it as a bonus when projects are demonstrating some type of sustainability model through innovation like solar panels and et cetera. And then communication. What is your project going to be communicating to the community? Is it inviting? Is it adding to the fabric of the community? Is it enhancing the value and equity in the community? Those are the type of things that we're going to be looking for. So next slide, Sonia. So one of the things that none of you should leave this call without understanding is that you have resources at your disposal. So again, Nolan and his team are certainly available to triage any questions that you have. I am certainly accessible and will be leaving my contact information into the chat. But you also have the Back of the Yards organization with Craig Chico and his team. They are fully prepared to help you walk through your application process and walk through some of the questions and some of the challenges that you may have in terms of articulating your value of your project to the community. The materials that can help with that is, the links that we have are enhancing your readiness, demonstrating your financial feasibility. And again, Craig and his team can certainly help with that. Construction planning, showing your impact and articulating that. The community organizations can also help with that, and certainly business planning. Next slide.
Oh, and that That's the end of it there. So it looks like we have, or we did have a hand up.
Good.
Yeah, we had one question from, did she leave the call?
I'm not sure. Does anyone else have any questions for Jim?
Well.
If you have any
again-
questions, go ahead and raise your hand.
Mhm.
Well, we'll be sure to share this information with folks.
Okay, and I'm leaving my information in the chat, guys, just in case somebody wants to reach out to me direct.
Great, thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Mhm.
Okay, moving right along. We will Chicago. Gabby?
Thank you, Sonia. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here today. Thank you for including me. My name is Gabriela Jurasek, and I am part of the We Will Chicago team with the City of Chicago. So if you have not heard of what We Will Chicago is, We Will Chicago is an ambitious 3-year process to create a citywide plan for the future of Chicago. So some of you may have plans that you've done with your neighborhoods. What we're trying to do is basically set up a formal plan that would take the entire city into consideration, because things that are happening in one neighborhood, you know, their needs may be different from the other different neighborhood, and we may need to figure out ways to balance those needs so that we're truly serving Chicago and all of its residents. So some of the things that a formal plan can do would be create metrics and criteria for public policy, formalize standards for neighborhood and regional plans so that we can keep those going as well. Align budgets, capital projects, and other policy priorities. It's possible that we could come up with some new and innovative public financing tools and programs similar to things like the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund or the Small Business Improvement Fund. You know, things that the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, the types of grants that they do. And then finally is, you know, we want to try to standardize civic and community engagement in the public decision-making process. So that's, I think, one of the most important elements, and where all of you come in as well. So next slide, Sonia. So this process has been going on since 2020, late 2020. And the way that the plan is currently structured are that we have 2 principles, which are the North Stars of the plan, equity and resiliency. And I'll get a little bit more into those definitions shortly. We have 5 themes, which are historical reckoning and trust building, the evaluation of equity impacts, community engagement is a theme, accountability, and interagency collaboration. There's a lot that's packed into there, and you know, we can return to this in another meeting, but I just wanted to share that a little bit overview. And then there are 7 pillars of the plan, which I will get into, which are basically topics of what we're going to be exploring. So yeah, next slide, great. So what is equity? You know, we've worked with the Office of Equity and Racial Justice, and they have defined equity as both an outcome and a process. So this results in fair and just access to opportunity and resources that provide everyone the ability to thrive. So that's kind of how we're framing this principle. And the second principle is resiliency. So resiliency is the ability of individuals, institutions, businesses, and systems within the community to survive, adapt, and grow despite stresses or shocks to its experience. So a truly resilient city is not only expected to perform well in good times, but also recover quickly after challenges. So, you know, similar to what we've been experiencing for the past 2 years with COVID-19 or things like environmental change, you know, our city needs to be able to still provide opportunities and things like public health and safety for all of its residents. So that's what we consider resiliency. So as I mentioned, there are kind of 7 primary topic areas that we're exploring within We Will Chicago. So just alphabetically, the first of those is arts and culture. And so what we're going to be doing with that pillar is really looking at how we celebrate and enhance Chicago's vibrant arts and cultures communities and, you know, the work of its artists. And we're also doing talking a lot about actual artist work development as well. So, you know, what is the film industry doing in Chicago? How are people who work in theater or entertainment, you know, how are they able to access resources? The second pillar is economic development. So economic development is the policies and actions that create a more equitable and prosperous economy for all Chicago residents and workers. So that's a lot about more broader job creation. That's about, you know, supporting businesses and, you know, how do we do that both, as I mentioned, you know, equitably so that, you know, all residents have access to resources. The third pillar is environment, climate, and energy. This one is probably a little bit more self-explanatory. So environment, climate, and energy. What we're doing there is researching policies and strategies that will help residents and businesses address things like climate change, the negative impacts of pollution, and how to enhance and preserve the natural resources in our city. So the lake, the river, our, you know, forests and parks, those types of things. The next one is housing in neighborhoods. So housing in neighborhoods, within that pillar, we're looking at policies that foster healthy neighborhoods where people are connected to jobs, amenities, housing, and where services are affordable and accessible to all. Lifelong learning is a little bit broader. You know, we're interested in people and how, you know, Chicagoans access schools, everything from, you know, preschool all the way through college, you know, master's programs, all of that. But we're also interested in lifelong learning and the type of learning that you do within your community. You know, what are skill sharing is happening? What are our elders teaching us, and how can they share, you know, their vast experiences in really productive ways? So we're kind of looking much broader at like, how do we learn as a city? The next one is public health and safety. So public health and safety is addressing the protection and care of people and neighborhoods with public and private resources during times of both well-being and crisis. So it is both, you know, how do we keep you healthy? How do we build healthy communities? And how do we also ensure that those communities are safe for all residents? And then lastly, the final pillar is transportation and infrastructure. So transportation and infrastructure is about creating recommendations for how to safely, efficiently, and equitably move people, goods, and information across the city. So broadly, those are the pillars, and we're moving through this kind of quickly. So we can come back to that at the end with a question for the group. But generally, this is the structure of our plan. You know, we will be working with the mayor's office, all of the ward offices and the aldermen and the commissioners kind of on finally approving this plan. Underneath that, we have an advisory committee of volunteers and a city interagency committee of government departments all across the city, and in pretty much every department and agency, like the CTA, the CHA, all of those different groups. So we're really trying to work holistically here. And then under that, we also then have teams of volunteers who we're calling research teams, who are helping to kind of put together these first kind of objectives and recommendations. We have a selection of community partners that we recruited through an open application process who are representing different nonprofit organizations or interests, groups of folks who've come together to kind of work on a specific topic area. We're also going to be launching a street ambassador program this summer, hopefully, and we have our We Will Chicago website. Next slide. So just broadly where we are right now, I'm just going to concentrate on today. But so at this moment, we have teams who have kind of been putting together these broad kind of objectives, and we will be taking these objectives and bringing them to you and to all the residents of Chicago for their input this year. So this is kind of our year of public engagement. And then next year, we're looking at kind of getting a final version of this plan kind of approved and adopted by the city formally. So finally, the ways that you can get involved are, this winter, probably at the close middle of February, early March, we will be working on a survey that you can take to give us input on all the objectives that we put together. We are putting together these street teams. So if you have events in your community or in your business where you would like us to, pop up and talk to people, we would love to do that. So, please get in contact with us. And we also have opportunities for you to kind of hold smaller group discussions on any of these pillars. You can also go to our website to learn a lot more. And then just for the last thing, I just wanted to do a quick poll really fast for the group, because we want to come back to you and do kind of a more in-depth conversation here. So our quick question is, which We Will Chicago pillar are you most interested in learning about? So you can see them all there: arts and culture, economic development, environment, climate and energy, housing and neighborhoods, lifelong learning, public health and safety, and then you might have to scroll down a little bit, would be transportation and infrastructure. So based on the results of this poll, we would love to come back and do kind of a more in-depth conversation about some of these really important issues. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabby. I think we actually have a question. Is there a list of organizations that were selected as partners?
Yes, let me pull up the link and I'll put it in the chat so that you can see all of the people who have been involved in the process so far. It's available on wewillchicago.com as well, if you just wanted to explore it there, but I'll get you the link.
And if you haven't had a chance to take the poll yet, everyone, we'll leave it up for a little bit longer. We have 16 responses so far, and it looks like most people are interested in housing and neighborhoods.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, any last takers of the poll? Going once, going twice. Thank you for everyone, to everyone who participated, and thank you, Gabby. Okay, so next up we have Chicago Public Libraries, Maggie Clements here joining us this evening to provide an overview of our Back of the Yards Library Survey results. Maggie?
Hi, everyone. Buenas tardes. I'm Maggie Clements, Deputy Commissioner of Library Operations at Chicago Public Library. Thanks for having us back, and thank you, Back of the Yards community, for participating in this survey. We had 318 responses, you can see, and I also really want to thank DPD and Representative Ma for getting the word out about this survey. It was really important for us to get this feedback. So as you can see, we had 318 responses. Most everyone who responded either lives, works, or is a student in Back of the Yards. I was really happy to see the student response. Really appreciate that. If you can go to the next slide, please. And you can see from here that most of the people who completed the survey, just over half, are actual current library users. So also appreciate that, and excited to get that orange no to the library, which I think in the next slide, it shows that the non-library users would use the library a little bit more often. So excited to get this new library constructed to bring the current users and then the new users on. This slide shows, remember we had the preference of the zones, and this slide shows that the north side of the corridor, so north of 47th on Ashland, would be the preferred zone, followed up by the south. And then the red star on the map is where the current location is. So just to give you an idea of where the survey, people who finish the survey prefer the library. And if you can go to the next slide, please. We have, these are the top priorities regarding accessibility and location. And most of the respondents said that they would prefer to walk to the library, and that's how they would like to access the library, followed by driving and in a parking lot. And thankfully, Back of the Yards is a pretty walkable community, so we're happy about this. And then we have, what types of programming would you like to see? The highest result is that blue line, so access to laptops and video games and additional technology, followed by homework help. I just want to remind everyone and put a plug here that the current Back of the Yards library does offer homework help. We have a teacher in the library in person Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, beginning at 4 o'clock. That information is also listed on the website, shipublib.org. And we also have additional supplements through the website, databases and things to help students with homework at this time. If you have any more questions, go to the website or give the branch a call. So we'll be looking at these other types of programmings, and we'll look at these a little bit more closely when it comes more time to develop the actual library space. But this is good to see. And the next slide, oh, these are the amenities. So we have study rooms. We're really popular as they are across the system. So happy to see that. And I know there isn't one at the current location. So that's good to see, as well as an outdoor space and seating area. So bringing some more, greenery, or just a space for people to come and sit and meet, or, read, or, picnic, etc. So we'll be taking a look at that. And just as our timeline, we wanted to show again. So next steps are, we had a lot of people make comment on the survey. So we have some more sifting through to do, and we want to synthesize that information, and we'll provide a result and a report of the whole survey, as well as those written responses for the February meeting. And then likely the library will be back in probably March or April. We'll be spending the time between now and when we return looking into property more so, and then hopefully have something really solid to report back to at that time. And so it shows that we're, pretty much on track. We are within the community engagement, which included the survey, just the beginning of engagement here. So now we'll be participating in the site scan, and then hopefully acquisition sooner than later. And if I can remind everyone, I will put it in the chat. If you have any questions, we do have not a website, an email address, newboty@shipublib.org. Again, I will put that in the chat. If you have any questions, comment. We're not getting to it every day, but we are checking it weekly, so we'll get back to you. I want to share that the previous manager at Back of the Yards, he has taken another position at the Gage Park Library. So the person in charge right now is the very talented children's librarian, Lucas Cifuentes. I'm sure all of the students here are familiar with him. And so if you have any questions, if you're at the library, you can reach out to him, talk with him, and he can direct you to me or our district chief over the library right now, and his name is Greg Diaz. And I will put the email address and the library's website in the chat right now. And I appreciate everyone's time and hope you're all staying warm.
Thank you, Maggie. Does anyone have any quick questions? Ruben, hi Ruben, welcome. Let's see here. Ruben from Teresa Rep Ma's office. Excuse me.
Should be able to talk, unmute yourself now.
Thanks, Nolan. Ruben? There we go. Ruben?
Hi, everyone. This is Ruben from Representative Ma's office. Not a question, but just a quick comment. I do want to highlight the important work that the community members did in reaching out to their neighbors and community to fill out the survey. Without their help, it wouldn't be possible to get to 300 survey results. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ruben, for recognizing the community. That's really important. And thank you, community, for completing the survey and getting the word out.
Thanks, Maggie. Okay, moving right along. Okay, so now we'll have our United Yards update from Scott of Celadon and Jesse of Back of the Yards Works.
Well, hang on one second. Can we, is Maggie still with us? Because we did have one question in the Q&A.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, Maggie.
That's okay. Maggie, are you still with us?
I am.
Jasmine Pisano asked, what is the site scanning process? How is the community going to be engaged?
Well, so the community provided input through the survey. We are working with DPD and Representative Ma's office and just to see what's available out there. And then we'll be talking with, current staff, district chief, our government affairs officer to, kind of gauge, what is available and what's important. And we'll be talking with property owners to, see what's available pricing. We have to involve our sister department, the Department of Assets, Information and Services, AIS, who manage all of our city properties. So they have to be heavily involved in order to look at terms and agreements and contracts and things like that.
Great, thank you. And just so folks know, Maggie and Public Libraries will be back next month at the next roundtable. And in the meantime, as she mentioned, we'll continue to digest the results of the survey, and we hope to get some sort of a formal report out so folks can actually see kind of what the results were and how people responded.
Yeah, and it does depend what is available out there. And I did just get a flag that I didn't send these links to the greater chat. So the email, the library is just greater website, and then the Back of the Yards specific branch website that has those local teacher in the library hours are now in the chat.
Great, and we can share that too. We can follow up and email that out to folks too, so they have that information.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Maggie. Moving along to our United Yards update. We have Scott and Jesse on the line. Scott, Jesse?
Hey, everybody. Great to see familiar faces. Hope everybody had a nice new year. Just a quick update. And for those that may have not been present in the last couple of meetings, just a kind of a summary of what United Yards is. It's really a compilation of two teams that competed for the RFP. And I'm hoping that this is maybe one of the last nights that I refer to United Yards as two teams, because it's really one team. It's a combination of Celadon and Back of the Yards Works. Certainly the Celadon portion as originally presented was really kind of a corridor redevelopment. You can see the image in front of you. It's really 4 buildings or 4 sites rather. But I think what the real art of this project is the community involvement. And that's why we're so excited to work with Jesse and Back of the Yards Works. Really, the past couple of months, we've been focusing on the business of redevelopment, and we've been spending a lot of time thinking about zoning and orientation of some of the new buildings, and that certainly impacted where certain parts of Jesse's team could exist within this overall development. But we've really advanced that part and have a much better sense now of where those components will fall. So super excited to take the next step. And I think one thing I'd like to say is the combination of the two teams, I think, has created a little confusion in the community. I know we've made some attempts to have a nice community meeting last September where we invited folks out to meet the teams and talk about what we're planning. But hey, you know, we're in a pandemic. It wasn't really well attended, and we'd love to have another event like that. We're gonna have to think about the pandemic, and maybe we do it virtual, or maybe we try both virtual now and maybe an in-person meeting when the current variant kind of dies down. But it's super important that the community understands what we're envisioning, and we're excited to have a couple more of those interfaces with everybody and give everybody a chance to ask some questions. But we're going to start, you're going to start seeing a lot of movement out there, and probably at the end of the first quarter. We're hoping that we'll have a nice groundbreaking for a part of this project, but really want to broadcast what we're doing with the community and get the community's thoughts. I guess, Jesse, I've done a lot of talking. I'd love to give you the floor and talk a little bit about how you're going to be sort of the art and what's special about this project, bringing so much of the community into this project.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So basically, just to piggyback on what Scott said, is that I think one of the things that the United Yards brings to the table that was really unique from any of the other projects is that basically the entire 47th and Ashland corridor is going to have a drastic improvement, and it's a bigger project, you know, that we had proposed ourselves. But one of the things that we bring to the team is the direct community involvement, the small businesses that are going to be part of it, that are have relationships in the community and have been in the community for a long time, and as well as our own kind of business as well that's going to be on the corridor. And you know, one of the things that this has allowed us as well to even you know, we're looking to acquire another piece of property in the neighborhood as well, and applying for the recovery grant as well to help us with those acquisitions and build out. So I'm really excited that, you know, for this project that's going to be happening very soon, as Scott said. And, you know, just someone as a lifelong resident of this community, I think, you know, being able to have a part in this project, I think is super important. And it's, you know, it's also super important to have the community input, as Scott noted. You know, we want to have the ongoing conversations with the community, want to make sure that what we're doing is relevant to what the community wants, and that, you know, we're keeping the interests. And, you know, there's a lot of fears, you know, fears of gentrification and that, you know, kind of, you know, that are real, and we want to make sure that we address those. As part of this project, there's going to be a workforce development center, the Opportunity Hub, that's going to create jobs. The Marimba Institute, that's going to, you know, teach arts and culture, music to young residents. And so I think that's super important. And yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of getting this started and breaking ground and continue to work with the community on this project.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Scott. Let's see if we have any questions. Does anyone have questions for Jesse or Scott?
I just want to acknowledge that there are a few comments in the chat that are referring back to the public library's conversation. And so I just want folks to know that we'll make sure to share these comments and thoughts with them so that they can continue to refine their process going forward.
Thanks, Nolan.
but yeah, if there are any comments or questions about United Yards, we got the dream team here.
We have a comment from America Compost, looking forward to the presentation and receiving an updated project scope.
Yeah, and I think now that, now that Scott and Jesse's teams have sort of hammered out some of the details and we're getting to that final product, it'll be great to bring the community in and kind of share with them that final vision.
We have a comment from Angie. How about my suggestion of a meeting at Hamline? And we actually just spoke about that earlier today, Angie. I'll let the team tackle that question though.
I think
Jesse?
that's a good idea. I think,
Yeah, right.
I think that's a, Hamline is right there, big space, where we can get a few people in, especially with COVID. We can have separation, ample separation for the number of people that we'd want in the meeting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great suggestion, Angie.
And any other questions for United Yards?
I do want to acknowledge Jasmine's comment encouraging the city to treat the community as a partner rather than an audience. And I do hope that, I think that is something we've been striving to do throughout this process. And I hope we can continue to do that. I think we're committed to that.
Absolutely committed. Thank you for your comment, Jasmine. And I just want to quickly remind folks the structure of the meeting when we have live Spanish interpretation. It's the technology. It forces us to use this webinar format.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow for the same sort of flexibility and speaking as in the meeting setting. So I do want to apologize for that.
Yeah, I think, ideally, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sonia. I think ideally this would not be a webinar. This would be a format where everyone can turn their cameras on and just unmute themselves and talk. Unfortunately, to offer that simultaneous interpretation, this is the only format that Zoom allows. So I do think, to Jesse's point, to Angie's point, as soon as we can start meeting in person, and we may not go to 100% in-person meetings as the pandemic continues, but if we can start to build in some in-person meetings, I think that'll really help as well. And I think that's what we would prefer anyway. I certainly don't like staring at a computer screen all day long. So I think it'd be nice for us to start meeting in person and having actual conversations instead of these, really formal muting, unmuting, raising your hand kind of things. Alma Sigala mentioned in the chat, she just asked if there was a possibility to open the survey or offer more time for the survey. I'm assuming that is the survey for the library. I don't know, Alma, if you want to clarify if that's the library survey. We could certainly ask if that is what you're referring to. We could certainly ask public libraries if they are willing to open it up again. I mean, we got, I think, over 300 responses is actually pretty good for a survey in my experience, but we would certainly be happy, I think, to get more input.
Are there any other questions for United Yards and Back of the Yards Works?
I have a question. Jesse, you promised me you were going to wear your White Sox hat tonight.
I wear it in my heart.
Okay, well, if there's no questions for the team here, just a friendly reminder to everyone, if you have any neighbors that might be interested in joining the monthly conversation, or we're just interested in engaging with the Department of Planning and Development around projects, please give them my email address. We'd love to have them join the meeting or work in collaboration to develop projects together. So thanks again, everyone, for attending. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me directly. Oh, we have, let's see here. We have a comment from Jasmine. She says it's a great idea to have the survey open longer. So we'll follow up with CPL on that one, Jasmine. Let's see. Oops,
Yeah, Alma asks that as well. And I think we're happy to talk with Maggie and our, our partners at public libraries to see if they are willing to reopen the survey. That being said, there will still be more opportunities. They'll be back at the February roundtable a month from now. And so there will still be, plenty of opportunities to engage in different ways. The survey is just one tool to get information. I think we're all hopeful that, we'll have the opportunity to have an actual conversation around what's important in a new library with folks.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments on any of the materials we covered tonight?
And Anna, I see your comment. Yes, you're welcome to continue to join us at future roundtables. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Any new attendees, thank you for taking the time out of your evening to
Hold on.
join.
So we have comments kind of filtering in.
Yes.
America Campos, says good and informative presentations. We'll be sure to share the information from tonight's meeting with everyone tomorrow. We'll send out, links to the reflecting on the roundtable survey, links to information on the Chicago Recovery Grant opportunity, and other resources. The information for the next CDOT public meeting. God, we have a lot of stuff tonight. We'll make sure that all of that information gets out to you tomorrow in an email. So look for that. Bruce asked, could this format include workshops, which could get us into discussion groups at least? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. We did this last year with the 47th and Justine site. We did some visioning workshops, and I'm sure that public libraries would be open to having some similar types of workshops with folks. And Consuelo says that, folks would like to hear about the results of the survey. We are certainly working on, so we have two surveys going on right now. One is reflecting on the roundtable. How can we make this forum better and more, kind of more useful for folks and more productive? Once that survey closes, we'll be sure to share the results of that. And then the public library survey. I think we first want to ask them if they're interested in reopening the survey to get some more responses. If they are, then we may have to delay the results of the survey. But otherwise, we certainly plan to kind of put together a report that we'll share with everyone.
Oh, and we have a comment from Gabby of DPD. We Will Chicago would also really appreciate holding group discussions. Please email wewill@cityofchicago.org with any thoughts or questions.
So I think after tonight, I don't think we anticipated January's agenda being this beefy, but I think we'll be sure to send out a really clear email that details all of the items that were on tonight's agenda and how you can learn more information about those items, and also how you can continue to engage in the process. Luz, thank you. Luz Maria, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad that the information was useful. And so if there are not any other comments or questions, I know, normally we do this for an hour, so we're 10 minutes over, but I know we had planned an hour and a half tonight. So we're actually 20 minutes early, which is good. Yep. So let's leave it on that note that we're actually letting everyone out early. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks everyone.
Good to see you guys tonight. And we'll see you all in a month.
Stay healthy. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you.